This is straight up out of Brooklyn. I'm Stella Winston. My guest today is an author, first time author, and she
Yeah.
has written a book. Jacqueline R. Banks has written a book called A Fine Piece of Chocolate, Righteous
Yes.
Sisters Crossing Over to the
The
Wild Side.
outside.
And this book, there is the cover. This cover is intriguing. Okay, so,
Yes.
and on set, in honor of this interview, I have plenty of chocolate. Some of it
Oh,
fine, and
yes.
some of it not so fine. So
Wow,
I'd
it's
like to
all
welcome
very
to
tempting.
Straight Up Jacqueline R. Banks, author
Oh,
of A Fine
fine
Piece
piece of
of
chocolate.
Chocolate.
Yes. Wow. I'm just intrigued by these delicious selections of chocolate. I couldn't help but looking at the Girard Deli, and right underneath it says intense dark twilight delight, something like the characters that are the downfall of the women in the book.
Really?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Well, I I was so excited for this interview because
Yeah.
you've been talking about writing this book for the longest, and
Yes.
now that it's finally here,
Yes.
I want you to talk about it, but also give me an
Right.
excuse to eat
Oh,
chocolate.
yes.
Because you know how I am, Jackie. I always
Oh,
try to watch my
yes.
sugar intake, watch
I
watch
know.
my weight.
It's good to
But
go on a
and I
vacation from that.
and in preparation for this, I went to
Yes.
find into the store is Paralandra, or there's a store downtown Brooklyn. It's carries fine foods,
Oh,
and I was looking
yes.
for fine pieces of chocolate because
Sure.
I knew I was going to interview you.
Yes, of
And
course.
this I came across. Actually, this Girardelli is
Yes.
finer than Godiva because I looked at the ingredients.
Yes.
So
Those
when you
are.
came up with this title, A Fine Piece of Chocolate,
Yes.
and the subtitle is Righteous
Righteous
Sisters
sisters.
Crossing Over to the Wild Side,
Right.
I was trying to think of what is fine chocolate. Let's talk about the name of the book first. How did you come up with
Oh.
it? Why did you come up with it?
Well, Stella, this has been a project that I was gestating for the past 3 years, and I gave birth actually on May 10th when this book went live on Amazon. As you know, I've always been a romanticist, and what happened was some years back, I had met a fine piece of chocolate, a fine brother in my church, and he just had my nose open and took me out of my fine co-op in Upper West Side of Manhattan. Doesn't get better than that. And we relocated to the hood of East Orange, New Jersey, which I have come to love after all these years. I'm right adjoining to Newark, and I really came to love the place, and being a homeowner with a house and trees and all like that. But you know, after a while, within 2 years, the marriage was over. And so the way I dealt with my disappointment, I kept a diary and logged in different events. And what I have noticed, being that I am a Christian, I've noticed that within the church, the divorce rate is almost as high as in the rest of the world. And see, what I've noticed that in the church, issues that have to deal with sex are still in many ways in the closet. As I indicated in the book, that we may find it easier to talk about if we're having trouble balancing our checkbook than in keeping our legs crossed until the right man comes along and puts a ring on it. And I wanted to discuss the issues of passions unchecked within the faith community. And there's a lot of pain, suffering, and drama going on within the faith community. And I wanted to address it. And since I like to write, I put the story in novel form. This is what I did.
Okay. Now, I did start to read it, and you have several characters, and the one character that I came across was Kim.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yes,
Kim
Kim.
comes from a very protective family. She has
Yes.
a sibling, but the sibling
She has a learning
disabled,
disability and
and
very immature
and
for her age.
and the father is super protected.
Oh, yes, he was, Paul. Yes, and that was another issue I wanted to deal with. Just living in inner city areas, there is a father hunger within these communities because many children come into the home without a father. And children need both parents. And what happens is the women in particular, they develop, and I'm speaking from a girl or a woman's point of view, develop a father hunger. So some of them look to these gangster type guys, these bad guys, as in a way like a father figure. For instance, Kim's family was an intact family that is now fast disappearing within the inner city communities. And unfortunately, well, I had the father taken out of the story early. I had him become a victim of violent crime in Newark. He became a murder statistic. It was very sad. And so Kim had to complete her childhood without her daddy.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. So you're going to read a passage from.
Yes. All right.
Kim's.
Yes,
the
from
character
Kim's
Kim.
perspective.
Okay.
All right. Now, I have a special fondness for Kim. Kim is at a vulnerable age at the crossroads of womanhood. Although raised in Newark in the Sumter houses, Kim was blessed to have been born to two parents, married to each other, who loved each other till death did them part. Paul and Gloria Smith were part of a visible but fast disappearing family structure in the inner city, the nuclear family. Paul was a family man who had a strong work ethic from his native Barbadian upbringing. He was a quiet man whose presence was nevertheless felt both in the home and in the surrounding community. Young boys out in the community proving themselves would stand tall and say, "Hey, Mr. Smith," and let him pass by before continuing on with their foolishness. Paul had a special fondness for his firstborn, Zodi, a learning disabled child who was a bit more immature than most youngsters her age. Paul said on more than one occasion, "I'm a law-abiding man, but I tell ya, let some rascal touch me daughter, and I will blast them away. You hear?" "Oh, honey, you mustn't say things like that. Nothing's going to happen to Zodi. I'll take care of her." "Sweets, you don't see things out here the way I see them. These people, you know, they will smile in your face and hurt you in a minute."
That's true.
Kim smiled at the memories of her mom and dad's conversations that she would overhear sometimes. Paul had a particular love for the three ladies in his life, as he called them, and he had a unique ritual for each of them. He would read to Zodi her favorite book and chapter that interested her on his days off. He would share with Kim the stories about his native boyhood in Barbados and explain the fine nuances of fashion. He once surprised Kim with a manicuring kit from Bloomingdale's and explained to her the difference between looking polished and refined versus looking fast for the moment. That's like the racehorse who bolts the stall first but finishes last. So Kim had a daddy who was showing her the way of life. And as I said, unfortunately, he ends up losing his life. He was a security guard in a department store. Now, Kim goes off to college. She was very protective, and even after her dad dies tragically, her mother does a superb job of keeping the family together. She was a marketing wellness entrepreneur, and she also worked in a boutique. And she did her part, and along with the structure of the community of friends to help look out for and protect her daughter. So there was still some measure of protection. But Kim goes off to college, you see. Ohio State University,
Okay.
a large campus, and she has a roommate who is very streetwise, the complete opposite of Kim. And this is her character, her nemesis in a way, Arnitha. Arnitha is a friendly young woman who can pull others to her like a magnet. Growing up in an environment where she saw too much too soon and learned that adults, particularly the ones responsible for her safety, were not to be trusted, led her to develop a rebellious, self-reliant streak. In her words, my mom and dad, they weren't really mom and dad in the traditional sense. They were cut-ups. Mom was crazy and had to be hospitalized twice. Dad tried to play dad when he was home. I'm not sure if all my sisters and brothers at home were dad's kids. My mom went out with Willie, the number runner, who gave her food money when the month was too long for the money. Willie couldn't be trusted, though. He tried reaching for my breasts one time when I was 11, and I smacked him and ran away. I think he was shocked that I had such nerve at such a young age. And you see, I want to bring out the humanity of the rough, hardcore street person, because they themselves have oftentimes been traumatized and have had to survive for themselves. So I wanted to also bring out Arnitha's humanity as well. Okay. And as I said, she was a rebellious type. She was smoking in the dorm. That was something you could get in a lot of trouble. And so Kim, in her innocence, you know, she wants to see everyone do the right thing. And she sees Arnitha smoking in the dorm. And Arnitha, Arnie, aren't you scared the matron will smell that cigarette and put you on probation? And Arnitha says, what? Are you serious? Kim, I got big-time issues you know nothing of. Following rules? Which rules? Who makes the rules? Oops, I forgot. Church girl. And Kim shriveled up at the tirade. You know, she was quite hurt. And so then she was smart enough to change the conversation, and she mentions the dance at the African American Student Union, the AASU dance. And so Arnitha's mood, she's kind of moody. Then she changes to, you know, she's smiling again. And we fast forward to the night of the dance, and where Arnitha's friends come by, and they get a General Tso's chicken and lo mein, and the friends are just chatting, and Kim is trying to study for her midterm. And they're talking about, going on and on about the boyfriends and who's sleeping with who and hooking up, and Kim's wondering when do they get a chance to study. At that point, she's still focused on her studies. So then she decides to get dressed for the dance, and she's looking at a long-sleeved ruffled blouse with just a little bit of cleavage, and her jeans and boots.
Now, before you go on reading about what happens to Kim, how much of this is autobiographical? Does this reflect some of the experiences that you went through as a young woman? How did you come up with the characters? Well,
indirectly, I had a sheltered life myself. I didn't go away to college. I stayed within the city. But to some extent, I was attracted to people who had that street swagger, and I was at the same time interested in my studies. I wouldn't say it's directly autobiographical, because some of what Kim goes through I had not gone through. Okay. But as a high school teacher, I always had a fondness for young people. I see, even though they may act like they know so much, there's a vulnerability. So some of that was drawn from my teaching as a high school teacher for 28 years. The character, the innocence and wanting to fit in, that certainly was me at that age. And as I said, I stayed in the city. I attended Hunter College and City College. Yes.
Okay. So now she's getting ready to go to a dance.
Yes.
And she's dressed the way she feels she's comfortable.
Yes, she's dressed covered. And as we know, people dress pretty naked these days. All right, so Arnitha is a fashion plate. It says here, the girls oohed and awed when Arnitha pulled out the black monochromatic legging set by DKNY. The knockoff Takori gem necklace provided a striking contrast against Arnitha's mahogany-colored skin, along with the floral International Concepts dress. Kim, on the other hand, pulled from her wardrobe the Donna Karan jeans and ruffled blouse with a slight cleavage, along with the knee-high boots that Gloria, her mom, gave her last winter. A safe choice, she thought to herself. Arnitha studying Kim's outfit and says, Kim, that's okay, but I have something that can really hook you up. But Kim protests. Arnitha cuts her off. This is cool. Arnitha suggests something cooler still. So she tells her friend Lavon to get the dress. Kim and Lavon are the same size. And Lavon comes back with this little spaghetti strap floral print way above the knee. She tells her, try this one on, girl. Trust me, I know how to hook you up. I know how to hook a sister up. So Kim is sitting there, and Bridget, another friend of Arnitha, parts her hair and curls it, and she has a very trendy hairstyle and the spaghetti strap dress that's up to here. And then Kim looks in the mirror and jumps up and down. Wow, thanks a million, Bridget. And Arnitha says, show what you got. Nothing wrong with that. Go ahead, church girl. And so they go to the dance, and there's all the young people at Blaine Hall, and the young people are dressed with their warrior haircuts, the locks, the perms. And Kim gets swept up in the atmosphere of the dance. There's the old school R&B, today's R&B, rap and hip hop. And so she begins dancing to her own tune, and then the guys are looking at her. She's slender, very shapely. She has on very little. And then comes the slow jams.
Yeah, the slow dance.
Yes. Kim wasn't really allowed to date much when she was living with her parents. So she's standing at the edge of the dance floor, watching the couple slowly grinding to Aretha's old school R&B, singing, ain't no way for me to love you if you won't let me. And as Aretha's singing that, along comes Slim with his bulging biceps and Stacey Adams shoes, and he asks in his baritone voice,
so he's
may
real
I have?
good-looking.
Yes, he's good-looking, tall, dark, and very nice-looking. And Kim let him hold her close until she could feel his bulging manhood. And she hears in the back of her mind Gloria's voice saying, don't be easy. Put value on yourself and don't follow the crowd. Kim wanted to pull away from him, but instead rested in him and let him hold her. So Kim's first year in college is an experience in choices, many of them contrasting choices.
Now, now you don't read the part after your description of what just happened to her, but you have little Bible sayings or
yes,
bits of wisdom throughout the book.
That's right.
And this is where the Righteous Sisters Crossing Over to the
Yes.
Wild Side comes in. So what are you offering? You're offering some advice as you go through the book for
Yes.
young girls? Or for
Well, yes,
women?
it's for young girls and women, and since it deals with the issues involving church women, Christian women, I do have some Bible verses sprinkled throughout, as well as what I call chocolatisms, you know, that are, for instance, one chocolatism is, maintain your integrity even in the atmosphere of compromise. For it only takes one step in compromise to start losing character.
So would you say that Kim compromised herself in
It
that
was a
situation?
slight compromise. She lets this guy hold her, and he's rubbing his manhood all against her and holding her tight, you know, the slow grind, as opposed to her pulling away and maybe saying, I don't dance like that, because that was not how she was raised. Her mother raised her, you know, to save yourself until you're married. And now she's starting to dress different and letting the guy dance, and their private parts are touching through their clothes. So that was a small amount of compromise.
Now, you mentioned chocolatism.
Yes, chocolatism.
And you actually have a list of chocolatisms.
Oh,
in
yes,
the back.
I have a list of them.
Don't read them all. But
not all of them.
Yeah, but what's the number one chocolatism for you personally?
Well, let's see. I like the first one, which is look before you leap. Now, let me say that a chocolatism is a nugget of wisdom that a woman obtains from life experience in dealing with a man, particularly a fine piece of chocolate. Now, below is a list of situations. I'm just going to mention one in particular that many women will find themselves in, and knowing how to think and respond is vitally important.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to think and respond. Go ahead and say.
Chocolatism number one.
All right.
Look before you leap.
Look before you leap.
Yes. If in the middle of a disagreement a man asks, you think you're better than me? Chances are you are. You see, a man recognizes quality in a gold standard when he sees it. A woman who's about educating her mind, keeping physically fit, learning new skills. She ends up settling, though, for a guy who just gives her a rush and dresses well. And there's a lot of them, very well dressed, and they give a woman a rush. They know the right things to say.
Now, I mentioned this, the name of this book to a particular man, and he felt like, without knowing what the book was all about,
Yes.
he felt like he was, men were made into be an object, like a piece of candy, you know, a piece of fine chocolate.
Interesting.
So, and then I showed him the cover of the book, and if you look at the cover of your book, I'm going to go to the book. You have a mousetrap on it. So,
yes.
Explain the cover of that book. Okay, so it's a fine piece of chocolate, meaning usually a black man.
Yes.
And righteous sisters crossing over to the wild side, and then you have a mousetrap with a fine piece of chocolate on it. And so what's the fine piece of chocolate represents the fine man, the black man, and the mousetrap meaning what?
Well, it's entrapment. He's fine, but he has game. He's playing game. He's fine. He knows how to listen to her. And I'll tell you, these street guys, I say that they are master psychologists. They could become just what a woman wants them to be. So then these women in the church, and sometimes it's very hard, particularly in the African American church, as well as others, but particularly here, where we have so many men missing in action, it is hard for a sister to find a righteous man. So some of them may meet up with these guys who may talk the righteous talk, but then they have another game. Or in some cases, they know that the man is not within the boundaries of faith, but they want to be with somebody. You know, chocolate, like love, is universal. Chocolate is associated with love, and we all want to be loved. That's universal. There's nothing to be ashamed of. All women want to be held and told how beautiful they are, and with a man they could trust. There's nothing wrong with that. We were created that way.
Now, I'm going to put your information. If someone wants to get in touch with you, they can find you at your email address.
Yes.
That's LLBG.
Oh, it's 3 L's. It's LLL. B as in boy, G as in girl, A as in apple, at Juno, JUNO.com. They could also reach me. My contact phone number is 973-570-0180. 885. And the book could also be found in Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and westbowpress.com.
Okay, and you are also looking to promote the book and
Yes.
possibly turning it into a play. Talk a
It,
little bit
it
about
could
that.
be, yes. Within my particular faith community, we have people that who have done acting and have created plays and have also starred in plays and movies. And there is a lot of movement and action going on, and the scenes are realistic. Although it's geared to the faith community, I do frankly deal with the issues of sexual encounters within the book, because sex is real, sex is life, and we need to talk about it. So it's very moving, and the women go through some consequences with these fine pieces of chocolate. They get their hearts broken. That's why you have this chocolate heart sitting on top of this mousetrap. They go through some tragedies, but then they emerge triumphantly because they go back to the roots of their faith. So there is a happy ending, a different one for each of them, but a happy ending where they find themselves for each of the three characters. So there is hope.
Okay, let's go back to the chocolatisms. Okay,
Oh,
so
the
I reacted to the first
chocolatisms.
one.
Yes.
So I'm going to think. And
Yes.
let's do one more.
One more
What's another favorite?
chocolatism. Well, know your Achilles heel when it comes to toxic men. Every woman has an Achilles heel or weakness when it comes to a certain type of man. Look back into your past to find your Achilles heel. You like those hot young things that end up having you feel like an old cougar. Leave them alone. You're not going to be 20 again. That was like a fashion statement, the older woman with the younger man, but you're only going to be 20 one time. Or the take charge dude who's really a control freak. Come on, do you really need someone to tell you what clothes to put on every day or how to fix your hair? I thought that's why you left your mama's house in the first place. Yes, it could. That goes back to what I said in the beginning of the interview. The daddy hunger, the missing fathers in the black community, and women sometimes get with these guys that are control freaks, telling them what to do because in a way they miss not having the father.
Okay. So okay, now I know your Achilles heel, meaning what you're weak for, what
Yes.
you easily become addicted to.
Yes.
When it comes to dealing with a man. So
Yes.
So you're saying that you have to a woman has to basically know herself. And
Yes.
when she's weak and when she becomes vulnerable.
Oh, that's very important. That's very well said, Stella. That's the point. That is the crux of the issue. This is what I want the women to realize.
Like, when I was in, let's say, my teens or my 20s, I wanted a big fro. I wanted,
Yes.
I guess that's normal. You're
Yes.
looking for that attractive mate.
Oh, yes.
But as I matured, I learned to dig.
Oh, dig deeper. Oh, yes.
Than the big fro, which it finally went out of style.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I wore it too. Yes.
So, but for it's more than looks.
Oh,
so
much more than
I think
looks.
That's like
looks fade.
That's like one of the Achilles heel that a lot of people, I would think, have
Yes.
to get past.
Oh, they must get past that. You don't know what, you might meet the really good package, and he may not be 6'5", he may be 5'4". He may not have washboard abs, he may have the muffin top, but he comes home every night. You know when he's going to put that key in the door. He's one who will play with the kids and take them to the park. In the end, that's what you really want. You want security. The guy who's the life of the party, he may be a narcissist. He's very well dressed, but he'll dress himself up before he buys you what you need. You have to look at all this.
Now, Kim is not the only character in the book.
No.
There are two other female
Yes.
characters, and you go through their stories
Oh, yes.
as well. So,
Yes.
What are the other two characters? What are their names?
Oh,
And
there's Nina and Sandra. Nina was someone who was brought up with a very strict type of parenting. Your kids don't answer back. And she was someone who held in her feelings. And she was the kind of person that people could take advantage of. You know, there's a part in the story where Nina has, her cousins are living with her, and there's one named Cassandra who's the blouse thief. Cassandra will always borrow her clothes, so she may be looking for her clothes, and then it's balled up in the laundry room, and she's angry, but then she's like, oh, it's okay. You know, she has to develop a spine. And then she runs into this guy, Raul, who is a womanizer, but he has this swagger that appeals to her, and he talks her into leaving her home and basically supporting his dream. She becomes one of those women who puts aside her education to support Raul and his dream, but he's a porn addict.
Oh, really?
Yes, he's addicted to porn. And I know he asks her to do something very compromising, but again, that's in the book. You'd have to read the book. But she goes through a terrible compromising situation.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on Straight Up.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you for inviting me, Stella.
It's been a pleasure, you know, and you can find Fine Piece of Chocolate on what,
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Westbow Press
Okay.
website, yes.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you again.
Well, let's eat some chocolate.
Oh, yes.